and it flamed quickly out. So that would indicate, well, this might not work, but I have no idea. All I know is when we talk about building a staff, the truth is the lead assistant right now for the Los Angeles Lakers is LeBron James. And I keep harking back to Byron Scott. You had him on your podcast. We had him on this show, sitting right there in Rachel's seat. And what was the first thing he said about the Lakers situation? And he wasn't kidding. He's actually
tongue in cheek.
Yeah. But he was a little bitter about it because he doesn't like to see head coaches done wrong, and he thought Darvin Ham had been done wrong.
100%.
Right?
No, when you look at it now on its face,
yeah,
I kind of feel the same way. Yeah. Like when I look at it, you know, now that JJ is officially hired,
exactly.
You look at it and you go, wait a minute, man, you had a tube.
Wait a minute, man, I'm with you on that. But Byron was saying, well, LeBron should just go ahead and coach it. Well, I think he has a chance to be sort of a player coach because he and JJ obviously are close from the podcast and they have good connection on the podcast. I don't know how close they are off the field or off the floor, but at least they have a pretty deep connection. And I think they'll be able to communicate at a very high, quick level where LeBron can help him just the way a lead assistant would help him. And yet, the only issue I have with this whole process was, you know where I would be more impressed? Is if right away, if they had fired Darvin Ham one day and 2 days later, they had hired JJ Redick because they had it all set up and they said, that's our guy. We had targeted JJ Redick from the start. I'd say, whoa, I'd get goosebumps. I'd say, maybe they found Pat Riley. But as you kept pointing out about Pat Riley, he was an assistant coach for the Lakers. He knew the team from the inside out for, what was it, a couple of years? Yeah. Okay.
Not only that, you go back to not just an assistant coach, he was in the organization.
Yeah.
So he understood the Dr. Buss, and he just understood the organization, whether it was him calling the games with Chick Hearns or him on the bench.
Yeah, okay. So I got to know Pat a little bit in his first 2 or 3 years with the Lakers, and I was around him a lot in media situations. Trust me, he was a tough guy. He had powerful charisma where the locker room listened to him. They already knew him, but he obviously inherited an all-time great team. We get that. But he was commanding from day one. I don't know if JJ's commanding or not because we've never seen him in this situation. I have no idea. Maybe you would have some feel for it, but can he walk in and just take a locker room over? Again, as a player, he wasn't Doc Rivers when he played. He came straight from sort of playing to coaching. He was a leader of the team. And I looked down Steve Kerr. Steve Kerr. I covered those Bulls. Steve Kerr was kind of the unofficial spokesman for the team. When we needed a quote, when we needed it put into perspective, we went to Steve Kerr. Because Michael could be a little distant and difficult with the media where he just didn't want to get involved. Okay, but Steve Kerr had leadership. You could just see it, where everybody looked up to Steve Kerr. And he was a starter for that team, okay? And then Mark Jackson, he was the leader of those Knicks teams that he played for. And when he stepped in, he took over.
Pacers, Knicks, all those type of teams.
Yeah. Okay. So Dave McMenamin he said this several times. He said that from the start, their list was this. It was Jason Kidd, Ty Lue, and JJ Redick. And I'm like, when I look at that list, I think it's like the equivalent of LeBron James, Anthony Davis, and Max Christie. You know, right? That's kind of the order, the pecking order. Then we're down to Max Christie as a potential head coach, right? Is JJ Redick? Well, they weren't going to get Jason Kidd, right? They weren't going to get Ty Lue because they had some bad blood history, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So then they interviewed JJ Redick. And then all of a sudden, we've talked this to death, and I don't want to beat the dead horse of Dan Hurley, but Dan Hurley just swoops in, kaboom, and all of a sudden they say, yes, we'll take you, and we will offer you 6 years, $70 million. And then you're saying, well, that's not nearly enough. And I'm saying for Dan Hurley, that's a lot of money because there's some X factor there, whether he can translate into pro basketball.
No, it's
right?
not enough. Look, there wasn't enough. If they wanted to get it done, they should have just anteed up a little bit more money to get it done. Now you say the pecking order, right? 1, 2, 3. Yeah. He was never 3. And the reason he wasn't 3 is because Dan Hurley was able to come in and bump him down to 4. So
I don't know what he was.
3. He was never 3.
And 1 and 2 were never going to happen.
And 1 and 2
that is
were
a fact.
never going to happen.
That is such a fact.
It was never going to happen. So when they came up with the plan of trying to find a head coach, they had to usher Darvin Ham out of the building immediately. Because the 2 superstars, for whatever it's worth, they never said it. I'm just looking at body language as an athlete and facial expression on the players in quotes after the season.
Yeah, especially the one Rachel pointed out from Anthony. Go ahead.
Yeah, not just from Anthony, but also where they start talking about he wasn't prepared, he come in late, all of those. You start looking at that, it's like, oh, okay, that is a player's move more so than an owner front office move. And what I mean by that is once the players start to sour on, they have to, as you know, Rachel, move on from Darvin Ham. They can't try to make nice. It just won't happen because you gotta cater to your superstar players. Now, whether or not the superstar player said, I'm out of here, I want to get traded, and I'm not signing back unless you get rid of him. That's not what I'm saying. I don't need to verbally say anything. They can see the same things I see, which is, you're not challenging that? We're not playing defense? Oh, and they sit back and they go, okay, we got to do something about this. And they didn't have a plan in place at the time.
They did not have a plan.
That was the biggest issue that I had with Jeannie Buss and Rob Pelinka. Now, you look at some of the other first-time head coaches, Rachel, you've been covering this league for a long time. Whether it was Jason Kidd that failed early on to a degree. But since then, he's learned because he's been on benches. He's been on benches. I think Isaiah Thomas was a first-time head coach that really never had any real experience as an assistant. It happens, right? Are the Lakers willing to wait, though, it out and let the growing pains happen and then see in year 3 of JJ's career where he is at, opposed to if all of a sudden you look up and he wins, what did we finish, the 8th seed this year? And all of a sudden he's the 6th seed. Are we happy and said, oh, there's improvement? Because they're going to spin it that way if that's the case.
Right.
You should be better because of LeBron James and AD.
Look, there is a chance he is a buffo box office success. We have seen it before. Doc Rivers came in with no coaching experience and was named Coach of the Year in his rookie season as a head coach. It is possible. Larry Bird came in, did an excellent job. Right? And then we've seen it again. Steve Kerr, obviously he had inherited a team that was already very well coached and very talented.
Thanks to Mark Jackson.
But yes, but he did it. It could have been a disaster, and he didn't. So there is absolutely precedent that JJ Redick could come in here and do a great job. It's possible. JJ, in the way he's different from Darvin Ham and some of the other coaches the Lakers have had, is he is super into analytics. He is super into very precise, this is what we need to do. Sort of like, you know, how Boston was like, we're going to shoot threes all the time because this is how it matches our personnel and these are the statistics and these are the odds. JJ is going to be doing stuff like that. He also is maniacal about preparation. I have been around him both as a player, as a media person. He is going to be, you talk about complaints about Darvin coming late or not being prepared or Anthony Davis saying that he's not prepared. None of that's going to happen with JJ Redick. JJ Redick is a prep guy, and he will spend this summer up until training camp preparing, and every game he will come in prepared. However, the reason this could go completely the other way is that you can only prepare for the situations you know about. And as a first-time head coach, you don't know what you don't know. And when you look at, they say, oh, we're going to surround him with elite staff. How much elite staff is even out there to get hired? Some of the names that I've heard are very unlikely, right? Jared Dudley. He's already an assistant coach in Dallas.
Love Jared Dudley.
Right. And by the way, he's super popular in the Lakers locker room. But Dallas wants to keep him.
He's in a really good spot.
And that's a team that just went to the NBA Finals.
Correct.
Sam Cassell is a name that's one of the first names that gets bandied about.
If I'm Sam Cassell, why am I going to the Lakers?
I'm just saying, Sam Cassell just won an NBA title with Boston. They're favorites to win. So he's not coming. So I do think that Scotty Brooks, there are Brett Brown, there are coaches out there that could help JJ. But it's not like there's like a ton of them
But
sitting
would
around.
Brett Brown, as much as he's done, would he leave Pop to come
Right.
to the?
Well, that's the thing.
With
You-
Wimby and
you don't know.
I don't know. Would you really? Would you leave to be the lead assistant for the Lakers? I don't know.
Honestly, the biggest harbinger of JJ's success is going to be what happens with the roster in the next 6 weeks. Because you can say what you want about Darvin Ham and his